the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go. You can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go Toronto, go. Go Argos, go, go, go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 15 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with Chris Pomay and co-host Nick Small. And I hope everyone's doing well on this Saturday, October 18th, 2025. We're coming to the end of our 4th season of doing the Argo Bounce Podcast show. We're going to do today's episode with a special guest coming on in a few minutes. And then we're going to do our last show next week. And we'll probably review the entire year and maybe get some CFL Grey Cup playoff picks as well. Here's my co-host Nick Small for episode 15. Nick, what's up?
Hey, Chris, glad to be here. Yeah, we get another one more crack at CFL season. Argonauts playing in Calgary against the Stampeders. Obviously not the way we wanted our season to end, but we get to enjoy another good game before going on our break. And while this all is going on too, the OUA is heating up. I have had this game on all Western in the first place seeding matchup to close the week off. Laurier is absolutely thumping Western right now. I believe, I didn't see if they made the convert, but I think it's 35 or 36-3 right now. Laurier over Western, 36-3.
We already have a viewer watching on YouTube. His name is Derek Knight. Goal Stamps Go. Chad Kelly to Saskatchewan is happening. I bet. I haven't heard that rumor. And then Derek Knight wants to say I am the special guest. Unfortunately, Derek, you're not the special guest, but you are the special viewer. And if you have any more comments or questions, please put some in the comment section as well.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover though this week. Of course, with this being Toronto's last game, this was the last chance to go to practice. So I was happy that I was able to go to 2 of the 3 that they had this week. It's kind of a bittersweet feeling, as we know too that things are going to be a little messy at the beginning of next season as well, with respect to the FIFA World Cup displacing the Argos for the beginning of the year. So really, this might be our only chance really to see the team up until maybe as late as August, depending on what happens with preseason. I don't know yet what's sort of the concrete plan. I don't think anybody does at this point, but I'm pretty sure that they'll probably be in Guelph again for training camp.
It's already been confirmed. They will be in Guelph. They will be back in Guelph for training camp and a preseason game here in May. I can tell you that. That's going to happen. So, but losing the 3 home games next year at BMO Field is a big blow. And we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it's all the way till August is when people seem to think will be the next time Toronto will actually be playing in the city, which is kind of crazy.
That's why the season tickets, when I talked to Jada Christian, it's going to be a while before they put out season ticket stuff for the information, because they're going to have to change and adjust to all the changes too, with the 3 games being taken out of BMO Field.
Yeah, the challenge too is that, in part of the plan is that you are including the home away from home game in Hamilton, as I like to call it, that ticket is included in the package, so you're really only losing 2, but they are having the option where if you don't want to go to Hamilton for that game, you can exchange that ticket for another one at one of the other games at BMO.
Derek Knight, who's watching on YouTube, thank you so much. He wants to know, is Calais Laborn still active for Toronto? He looks as shifty as Pimbo Clemens to me. I wish he was the Stamps running back number 2.
So from what I can tell looking at right now, he is not on the roster. So he might have been released. I haven't looked, but he isn't on either the practice roster or the injury list. Now that I look at, oh my God, that injury list is like 25 names long. But I mean, Calgary, I mean, that one Choquette guy had a pretty good game last week there against Hamilton. So I don't think you need to worry too much about the running back situation in Calgary as long as their O-line performs well.
No, hey, I'm going to be honest, Nick. I saw them play in Hamilton last week as media. Offensively, they were good. They had over 225 yards, maybe even more, rushing against Hamilton. They had 259 yards passing. They were well balanced. Hamilton's defense couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass. They only sacked Vernon Adams once. 1 sack compared to 9 of the Argos, and Calgary did not turn the ball over like Toronto. If Calgary can play the way they did against Hamilton, obviously I think being at home tonight, they should, I think, win over the Argos personally. I think Calgary still could be a tough out. I know Calgary went through a 4-game losing streak, but if Calgary can play like they did against Hamilton, I think Calgary has a good chance of maybe possibly hosting the West semifinal. And speaking of games, we had games last night, Nick. Winnipeg 17-16 over Saskatchewan. That game didn't mean anything for Saskatchewan. It was huge for Winnipeg. And BC, I think, pretty well eliminated Edmonton with that 37-24 win.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. So, yeah, it looked good for BC. Like they're continuing to roll really hot, and I mean, especially because Edmonton was starting to build some momentum, and it was good for BC to be able to kind of shut them down. But I still think BC maybe still has some questions defensively. And then looking at Calgary here, like I was looking at some of the statistics too, just to kind of see where they're at. And Calgary right now, as we've gone to week 18 and they've really kind of cooled off, but have started to build a little bit more momentum again. They're very kind of average in terms of everything. Like I look at all their statistics, they're kind of middle in the road at sacks, middle in the road sacks allowed, middle in the road of kind of everything. So like to me, they don't seem like that kind of team where like there's tons of star players that you key on. Like there's a couple, like Phil Potts probably one, Rhymes, as we kind of discussed here with Derek here. The running backs, like I don't think Mills and Choquette are as recognizable names right now as say Kadeem Carey was when he was in Calgary a few years ago. So but there's pieces there, and the guys defensively, they're playing really solid as a core group, and a lot of names that we haven't really seen in Calgary. So they're doing the right things right now, and I think it came as a surprise too, because we saw at the beginning of the year they kept their head coach, but they cleaned house. Everybody else kind of left, and they kind of rebuilt from scratch, and so far it's working pretty well for them. I think they're going to be in the playoffs for sure, but they're probably going to have to go the long road way, playing away in Winnipeg, or if they cross over against the 2 East teams in Montreal and Hamilton. So we'll see what happens there.
Our special guest just popped on, so we'll bring it on him in about 30 seconds. Derek says, I bet $3 parlay on 2 games on Super Bowl and Sunday in February 2025 on my Eagles, who won. I'm an Eagles fan too. And then Stamps in November 2025 to win the Grey Cup. Pays out $127 if the Stamps win it all. I'm seriously praying to God. Well, if Calgary can play like they did last week against Hamilton, they have a good chance. But whether they can be consistent or not, we'll see. And
I've always said this: if the spread is is 10 it cover, and so just something to consider. I think both the Montreal game that's just kicking off, I think right about now at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think last time I checked before kickoff, it was 10.5, and Calgary was 9.5 favorites. So just something to think about if you're looking at those betting lines. Like, how many times this year has the spread been 10 against the Argos, but they've been able to cover it? More often than not, they have.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring on our special guest. He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of the show. He loves the CFL and the Toronto Argonauts, and he's not afraid to express himself. I'm going to bring him on, Marty York, former media personality and journalist from Toronto's Global Mills. Hi, Marty. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. Hi, Nick. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing great.
Doing great, and it's a great time of the year, Marty. We got Major League Baseball playoffs going on. We got the CFL going into the playoff season soon. The NFL's going on. Basketball, lots of sports going on.
OUA.
Yeah, and the NHL.
I forgot about the NHL. Yes,
Yeah,
and my Red Wings are 4-1 so far.
Wow.
Habs are doing good too, Chris.
Yeah, they're both 4-1, which is surprising, right? I mean, nobody expected them to be that competitive, but they've gotten off to good starts. We'll see if they can keep it going.
Well, thank you, Marty, for coming on here today. And you were one of the guys when we started up our show this year that said the Argos were going to have a really tough year and maybe finish last in the East, and you called it.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few wrong too over the years. So, I just thought that despite what happened last year, and that was a championship, a Grey Cup title, that this year was going to be difficult. They lost a lot of key players. I know Arbuckle was the MVP in the Grey Cup game, or MOP, or whatever they call it, in last year's Grey Cup game. But if you guys recall, I did say that I didn't think he was enough to lead the Argos back. And it wasn't only him. I mean, he had a high completion percentage, and he was actually pretty good. But they didn't have any running game this year at all to speak of. And then they lost their best receiver in Coxie. So any chances of rejuvenating themselves at that point, to me, were killed. And I think the Argos need to do a lot of rethinking for next year. Is Chad Kelly going to be the quarterback or not? And if they don't like his personality, if they don't like him being around, then move on and do something, get somebody else. But by him just standing on the sidelines all year, I think there was a bit of a distraction there. I told you guys earlier this year and even last year that I think there were some issues between Kelly and other players. And I think that just lingers. So I'm not blaming him for anything that happened this year because, really he wasn't even on the field. But they have to decide, is he, he's the highest paid player in the league, I think. So
Yes.
Is he going to play or not? And, without him, I just don't think they're quite as good. And like I said, they lost a lot of players from last year who I think they missed.
Yeah. Marty, I gotta ask you this, and Nick too. Chad Kelly, I believe, is making around $650,000, or one of the highest paid salaries. Let's say the Argos make that decision where they want to move on from Chad. This is just my opinion, no speculation. How would that work in the CFL in terms of the salary cap and contract situation?
So in the CFL, unlike other professional leagues, once you cut a player and he's not injured anymore, then you don't have to pay him. I don't believe anything is guaranteed on any contract. It's not supposed to be anyway. If they do guarantee a contract, then they do that surreptitiously. It's not something that the league endorses, I don't believe. So I don't think I think they would be off the hook if they decided to cut him. And I really don't know why they kept him around if he wasn't going to be able to play.
Yeah, it's kind of the weird. I think what didn't help throughout this season was that there was always this kind of lingering question that seemed to go on through the entire year. Well, is he going to play? Is he going to
Yeah,
play? Is he going to play? And as the situation played out too, that like it went from being kind of struggle out of the gate, desperation, then and that they needed to win games, and then especially I thought when Arbuckle went down with his first injury, it kind of led to the point where then they were basically out of it, taking a miracle to win. The
right.
mentality kind of shifted where we saw in that Edmonton game in Toronto, there was that date, the thing that he posted about him coming back, and then it kind of shifted to like, okay, now that we're out of it, we're just gonna shut him down for the rest of the year and just kind of
Yeah,
focus on 2026 now. So I think that probably had I don't think that helps in a situation either. And like, yeah, as we kind of discussed, like Arbuckle had a really strong season, and if things had worked out differently between other positions and just with the record of the team, like you could argue his play, his passing yardage, his stats could have put him into maybe a discussion for All-Star or whatever, but
uh,
they didn't. They just there's that lingering thing that no matter what he did, it was always kind of that lingering ghost of Chad potentially coming back in, which I don't think helped the situation.
yeah, Nick, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think when a player's on the sideline, someone who's accomplished quite a bit, it can be a distraction more than an asset. And sometimes if it's the right kind of person, he could lend a lot of assistance to the game plans and that sort of thing. But I don't think that Kelly was on good enough terms with players. I know he certainly wasn't on good terms with Dukes, that's for sure, who is now, I guess, a backup in Montreal. But
They cut him. They just cut him.
They might.
it wasn't a good thing. And if I could just mention, Chris, also, Nick,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
All I wanted to say was, regarding Arbuckle, Nick, you're quite correct. His numbers were very good. He passed very well, but it didn't help him and they have a very good receiving core. That's the one thing the Argos maintained, was a top-notch receiving core. All those guys are good. Even some of the guys like Brissett and those guys who were playing sporadically, were quite helpful. But the problem is when you don't have a balanced attack, you didn't have a running back who really did much at all the entire season. And I think that hurt Arbuckle. Yes, he got the big numbers, but he got sacked a lot. He turned over the ball a lot. And when you don't have that balanced attack, you're a quarterback, you're a target for a lot of these, linemen.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it more has to do not so much with the running back who's carrying the ball itself, because like we kind of seen Spencer Brown emerge into that role later on in the year. What I think the problem's been more is the offensive line
Yeah,
as a whole. Because when you look at it, the Argos gave up 52 sacks this season, which is far too many, obviously.
yeah,
Edmonton was second last with 46 right now, not counting yesterday's game. BC and Montreal at the top have given up 18 and 21 sacks all year.
right,
And
right.
between we didn't see it in the pass protection, and we didn't see it in the run blocking either. It's just, to me, I think it's more a problem with that the O-line really struggling at performing. Rather than necessarily the running back himself. But yeah, it does come down to the back as well, that just nothing seemed to go right on the offensive side other than the receiving core.
Yes.
By the way, Nick, the Philadelphia Eagles have kind of struggled offensively this year too. It's because the O line is not playing good. Plus, they've had injuries, and Saquon Barkley hasn't been able to be as effective. So, to me, I agree with Marty. A complete football team has to have a balanced offense, not just a passing game, but at least a consistent running game. And I don't think the Argos have had a game where they've had over 100 yards rushing this year. I don't believe. Maybe
They
one
don't.
game. Maybe
At
one.
least, at least Spencer Brown managed to oversee Arbuckle in rushing yards.
But
Going back to the Cam Dukes thing, though, they might need him back. Here's some live breaking news. Davis Alexander hit his elbow on the turf on the third play of the game. So we're going to have to see what happens there as that game goes on. If Alexander's out again, that's a big panic in Montreal.
It's huge, huge. He's that guy's never lost. Literally, he's 10-0.
10-0. Absolutely.
But I know he's in the tent right now because the game's on in the background here.
That is huge for Montreal. By the way, we have a viewer on, Marty. His name is George Brown. He's from the St. Louis, Missouri area. He's an Argonaut fan and a Canadian Football League fan. He's watching our show on Instagram. He just wants to say, hey, I'll take the 2 Grey Cups in 3 years. How many teams can say they've won 2 Grey Cups in the last 3 years? And they've won what? They've won, 4 in the last 8 years. So as Argo fans, you know what? They've been pretty successful this last 8 years.
That is so true, and George is quite right, and that's a lot for the Argos to be proud of. I think what irks me is the fact that the fans in general don't seem to be. I'm not talking about the hardcore fans because they're great, but the fans in general don't appear to be as supportive of the Argos as they once were. In my youth, when the Argos just did well, it was enough. It was the talk of the town. Times have changed with the emergence of the Blue Jays and the Raptors and other teams, but it still irks me that for some reason Toronto fans aren't there the way the other cities fans are in the CFL, and to lose 3 home games next season to me is a real blow as well. I wish, I don't know what can be done because I've been hearing this for years and years. But Chris, you're right. George was right. Nick's right. The Argos are a successful team. They've done very well. Not including this year, but they have done very well. And where's the support? Where is the appreciation? I mean, there's some, but not nearly enough.
Yeah, what's kind of weird when we sort of looked at it, like if we look at the last 4 years and even maybe a little bit into pre-COVID, like you look at how like with the Raptors and right now with the Jays and their playoff run, those stadiums are packed now, like the Skydome's 50,000 people packed for these playoff games. But then when the Argos get into these playoff situations, they're still a ton of empty seats in the upper deck on the far side. But then
and they're second tier news. It's not not right at the outset of the newscast, which it really should be.
But I also found it really weird, though, that in like this whole Bills partnership thing in that last home game of the season, they kind of head around a similar attendance as to what they like when they were in the playoff games. So even though we've had a losing year, we managed to have at least one kind of game like that where we were up in the upper teens. I don't think it was 20,000, but it was close to it. And before we get into it, I'm not hearing it to the argument of, oh, it was Hamilton fans, because it wasn't. And except for maybe the opening night, the first game at BMO Field, there's never really been like this whole half the fans were Hamilton fans myth isn't true.
Marty, got to ask you this too. Let's get into it right now. What are your thoughts on MSLE's partnership with the Buffalo Bills? And also, did you find it odd the CFL made all these major changes within the same time frame of this MS Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment partnership with the Buffalo Bills?
So, 2 answers, to two questions here, Chris. The first one is the agreement with the Bills. You know, when John Tory was the volunteer commissioner of the CFL, he made some really excellent points about how the CFL could still succeed and could even maybe profit, if you will, from the NFL's from a partnership with the NFL. I used to think he used to say that if the Bills would come to Toronto and play, it'd be a 1 and 1A situation. You could market both of them, and I don't think that if football is terrific, no matter who's playing it. As far as I'm concerned, I could watch an NFL game, I could watch a college game, I could watch high school football, I could watch CFL, and I love all of them. So football is football, and if you're going to sell the Bills within Toronto, then I think there's a chance for the Argos to actually benefit from that, because it's an osmosis almost effect. You're there and you're part of this package, and your people are going to come out to watch you because I think the Bills are going to do some promoting of the Argos and that sort of thing. So it doesn't bother me. I never had a problem with that. And, I have a lot of faith in what John Tory was saying back in the day. And I still think it's a good idea. So it doesn't bother me. The rule changes, however, bother me a little bit. And I'll tell you what, the reward for failure issue has been something that's been brought to my attention. Like, I was a very young guy when I first started covering the CFL. I was like 20. And so it's been a lot of years since then. And I've always heard about people complaining. I've always heard from people who suggested that giving a single point for a wide field goal was silly and that you were rewarding failure. So I myself like the Rouge. Okay, I like it because it makes it distinct and it gives the CFL a different look. And I've always appreciated it. But when that many people, I've been hearing for so long that you shouldn't be rewarding kickers or teams for missing field goals, and you shouldn't get 1 point instead of 3. So I could live with that. What I absolutely loathe is the idea of shortening the field again, because if you shorten that field and make it more like U.S. football, like the NFL, then you're leaving yourself open to criticisms that this is a second-rate U.S. league. And God forbid if they go to 4 downs, they're going to lose a ton of CFL fans. And I'm not just talking about Toronto guys. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of people who are going to view the CFL as a second or even third-tier league, because they're trying to use the American rules the same way, the XFL, USFL, and all those other failed leagues did. And so keep the CFL distinct, please. Don't do these things. And I mean, there's talk that they are going to go to 4 downs someday. I think that would be.
I'm going to try to have more.
Pardon?
I apologize. I was just having a Wi-Fi issue there. So I was going to say, Marty, I know they had to make a few changes, but what are your thoughts? What changes, out of all the changes, what ones are you okay with, and which ones you kind of really think are mistaken? I want to get your thoughts on CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston too, as well.
Yeah, just for context, Chris, I'm not sure if you heard, but he did start talking about the field changes as being kind of the big problem. And just if I could chip in too, I agree. I think the one that has irked a lot of fans, like the current CFL fans, especially like the hardcore ones, has been the field dimension changes.
Yes.
And I think what they're trying to do is that's where it's really interesting. Like it's trying to make it look more NFL. Is that going to draw more fans in a market like Toronto? But is that going to be enough to offset who they're potentially alienating in other markets? But at the same side of that argument, there's also, I think, where we kind of see in terms of like early chatter amongst people, like the hardcore fans don't like the changes, but it's I still don't think it's going to have the same effect of like people canceling their season tickets over. I think
No.
most people are still loyal to the game.
Yeah, I think that I don't like the idea of trying to assimilate or become more similar with those field dimensions. I don't like that. It bothers me. But by the same token, I don't think that's enough to offend fans, like you said, Nick. I believe that the support will remain. The problem that I see is what these guys are talking about doing in the future. And I haven't heard this from Stuart Johnson or any other CFL people, but I've read online, I've heard from people off the record in the league that they're contemplating 4 downs. And if they're going to go to 4 downs, that's when you're going to have people saying see ya. And I think that's a big problem. And the CFL has, to me, been a pleasure to watch because of the difference in the rules. And because let's be honest, the players are not the same caliber as the NFL players. We all know that. It's the rules that make it more entertaining. And I don't want to tamper too much with the rules. I think that would be an error.
And Marty, I have a number of American friends, and the reason they like the CFL is because the differences of the game compared to the NFL. And they're like, and George Brown, who's watching from the St. Louis area, his opinion is, I believe MLSE is behind these changes, and he believes that they privately want an NFL team in Toronto and get rid of the CFL and possibly.
Well,
I don't see it.
I don't know how I can comment on that because I have not heard that from any reliable source. I've certainly heard that speculation over the years, not just this year. And maybe they do envision the NFL as a bigger moneymaker than the CFL in Toronto, but there's no reason that they can't coexist. And I would hate to see the CFL without a Toronto. That would drive me crazy. Would I welcome the NFL? Sure. In Toronto, I think it would be there is no question that many of the fans would view that as a boon to the city. And the reason is that they are spoiled, if you will, by the Blue Jays playing the New York Yankees and the Raptors playing the Chicago Bulls and the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. So you get these, high profile teams coming into Toronto, and the leagues are very high profile. And so is the NFL. So the fans in Toronto many of them would want to see an NFL team in Toronto. There's no question about that. But I never, ever in my lifetime want to see the CFL leave Toronto. And I think that would be just horrendous. And I don't think MLSE is interested in getting rid of the Argos. Do I think they want to make major changes? Yes. Do I think they would like to raise the profile? Yes. I still think that MLSE will and has to do something to raise the Argos profile and make them more, what's the word I'm looking for? More desirable to follow in Toronto.
I feel the problem is marketing, not enough of the fans. Being media, Marty, I get to see these guys up close. Obviously, Nick does go into the practices and as a season ticket holder, but the most of the people in the Toronto area don't know how good these guys are and the kind of stories they have. They obviously know Chad Kelly, but you can't have a successful franchise just marketing one guy. And also, they should be cross promoting the Argos with the Leafs, the Raptors. Toronto.
That's a very valid point, Chris. I mean, MLSE owns all these teams.
Yep.
So yes, they should be. And I think they try to sort of once in a while, but they don't do it nearly enough. That cross promotion is a major part. I mean, you could even do ticket deals. You know, you want to buy Leafs tickets? Well, you got to buy Argo tickets too, or something like that. I know a lot of people would protest that, but you got to do something to raise the profile and make, you know, the Argos great again, to borrow a phrase that seems to be popular.
I know they tried something like that this year with the preseason game for the league, where there was a way to get extra Argos tickets and bundling them in with preseason tickets for the Leafs to have an opportunity to try to get fans who might not normally go to or have the opportunity to go to see the Leafs play. I couldn't figure it out. It was a little tricky, but I think the thing that was kind of the problem was that even though you were already a season ticket holder and you had 2 tickets, it was like
Nick, I think we lost you on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured my Wi-Fi was chopping out. Don't worry about it then.
Marty, I was at a Leafs game a couple weeks ago, and it was just before the Argos Tiger Cats game with Doug Flutie and Jim Kelly there. There wasn't one mention about the Toronto Argonauts, Hamilton Tiger Cats, or the MSLE partnership with the Argos and Bills at the game as well. Nothing.
And that's where I think the MLSE is lacking. They have the opportunity to make the Argos more appealing by cross promoting, and I think you make a good point, Chris, when you say that missing the boat.
I think too, like when we talk about it with the Bills kind of context and the cross promoting with the NFL. All this argument that we keep hearing is that, oh, with the Bills here now, they have the money, the means to be able to advertise, and yeah, it's kind of a thing that like both of you have brought up just a little bit. It doesn't cost money to cross promote within your own organization. Is it really that hard to take any of the other Argos advertisements that you've had and put them out at Scotiabank Arena during a Leafs or Raptors game?
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a bit of a problem here seeing and hearing both of you.
Yeah, that's why I keep cutting my
Okay, I'm gonna add Marty back. Okay.
That's why I cut off my video, because I notice I'm getting too.
Okay, I think
I'm getting an echo, but it's okay. I can live with it.
Technology. Hey, Marty, since we got you on here for a little bit longer, what are your overall thoughts on the job that Stuart Johnson has done in his first year as CFL commissioner? And do you feel that he should have talked to the GMs and the coaches and the players about some of these changes taking place in 26-27?
Absolutely. I can't understand why he didn't. I know Nathan Rourke, who, by the way, is the outstanding player in the league this year, I think, after Trevor Harris and Vernon Adams started off very strong. I think it's Rourke now. He's amazing, that guy. I don't know how he didn't make the NFL, but that's another story. And it's nice to see a Canadian excel. But he was quite right, in my opinion, the way he criticized Stuart Johnson for not at least having a conversation with the Players Association and with other people about these changes. I mean, the owners may have pressured him. I mean, I've heard some stories about they wanted smaller field dimensions so they could get better seats into the stadiums and sell them for more. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, I'm surprised that Stuart Johnson didn't talk to the rest of the people who have had an interest in the league for a long time. And I'm talking about players as well. And he could have even, canvass some media people who've been around the league a long time. Wouldn't have been anything wrong with that either, in my opinion. What do I think of the job he's doing overall? Well, I mean, that is what stands out right now, his changes. I don't really see that he's had a major effect on what goes on in the league right now. Now, that's not a knock against him. He may be doing it quietly. He may be handling the owners, who can sometimes be a handful. So he may be dealing with them on a, but overall, I don't see any major changes. I mean, this league is successful because of the rules. It's not because of the people who run it. It's because of the games themselves are so entertaining, and I don't know that everybody understands that, especially in Toronto. But that's what's good about the league, and it really doesn't matter to me who's running it unless they're screwing it up. And I don't think he screwed it up at all. I think the product is still terrific. And, I want it to remain like it is. Don't do anything else.
The question for me is how U Sport is going to go along with it.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah, Nick, it was your Wi-Fi. I'll go ahead and ask Marty what you're going to say, Nick, because I was actually thinking it. This is going to also affect, in my opinion, it's going to affect universities and high school footballs too as well.
Yeah, I mean, it will. There is no question. It'd be equivalent to the NBA changing the height of their hoops all of a sudden, and then the players at the junior levels would have to learn how to deal with that. But, changes do take place. And that's why the 3-point rule in the NBA was introduced many years ago now. Yep. But it wasn't there during the, Bob Cousy years. So, I mean, things do change. I don't think the players will have that much of a problem with the shorter end zone and the shorter field next year. And, I don't think anyone will care that much that there's no single points on missed field goals. But like I said to you guys a little earlier, don't do anything else. Just leave it alone. Do not go to 4 downs. That would be suicide.
Well, Marty, you noticed all these other football leagues that have started up over the decades, the USFL, the XFL, they've all tried to copy the NFL and they've all failed. And that's my biggest concern with the CFL trying to Americanize itself, that it's going to end up failing. And one thing, the goalposts going back to the back of the end zones, obviously the NFL did that in 78. My concern is, okay, a missed point for a missed field goal, I'm not going to miss that part. But when somebody misses a field goal, one of the most exciting plays in Canadian football is seeing that returner take that ball out and either get a touchdown or even get 50, 40 yards on the return. That's just something I'm really going to miss in the league.
But, I mean, they're still going to be able to do that, aren't they? I mean, if they're short, if the kicks are short, aren't they going to be able to return it? It's only if it goes beyond the crossbars that would be nullified.
But how often have we seen a kick that short? Like if you're kicking unless you're kicking like a 65-yard field goal with the wind, like I don't think many people are going to kick a field goal that they don't think they're going to make.
I mean, that's a really good point. You guys are making a really valid point. That is an exciting play. The return on missed field goals. They are allowed to do it in the NFL, but it just doesn't happen very often. They're usually, if there's a missed field goal in the NFL, 9 out of 10 times they kneel or it goes out of bounds or something. But that's an exciting play, and I really haven't given that as much thought as I probably should have on the rule changes. I should ask my buddy Hank Olisic, who
I know who he is, 7-time Grey Cup champion.
Yeah, and he's a really good friend of mine, and I want to get his opinion on that. So I will ask him. And Stuart Johnson, erred by not asking players or former players or other people. I think the owners must have okayed it. He probably did talk with them, but I think from a financial perspective, they might think it's going to help them a bit. I don't know, but yeah, it was. Rourke was right. Sorry.
It seemed like a bad look in that, you had this whole talk about a 6-month listening tour, and it sounds like you didn't do much listening.
No, I mean, maybe. I just can't comment on that. I don't know that for sure. It does seem that way, yes. By the way, this is the reporter in me. Davis Alexander, or Alexander Davis, is back. And Montreal is up 13-0 in the first quarter with 2:25 left.
And that's a huge game, because if Montreal loses this game, Hamilton automatically clinches the East. So Montreal needs to win this game to keep putting the pressure on Hamilton. And by the way, Marty, before you get back to that game, you mentioned Hank Alisic, all-time great CFL Hall of Fame kicker in that. I want to talk to Mike Hogan and the Argos committee. Hank Alisic should be the next all-time Argo, in my opinion.
Well, isn't he already? I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I thought I used to write all the time in the Globe that Hank Alisic was an automatic Hall of Famer, and it took quite a while for them to realize just what a great punter he was. I mean, he was fantastic, unbelievable, and really good team guy. Great guy and a great person. And so I thought, I don't know, maybe I'm hallucinating, but I thought he was already on that wall of the Argos, and I thought his name was up there. And I don't know. I don't think his number ever got retired, if that's what you're getting at. But I
can confirm he is not.
He's not.
He's not an all-time Argo. Yeah.
No.
Well, he should be. He also, don't forget, 5 of his Grey Cup championships when he was with Edmonton. And he was 18 years old when he first started on that team. 18 years old. He was still in high school. And after high school, he would drive over to at that time, they were the Eskimos, of course. And he would drive to their practice and he was just phenomenal. I'll tell you what else and I've played, like, he's been on my baseball teams and even my touch football teams. He has an incredible strength. He could throw a ball, 80 yards, and he only uses his wrist. So he was actually the third string quarterback. That people didn't understand that because he never really played. But he was a third string quarterback behind Barnes and Holloway, or Holloway and Barnes, in their Grey Cup year. And he was a third string quarterback behind Wilkinson and Moon with Edmonton for years. He was also a backup linebacker. You hardly ever saw Hank miss a tackle on a punt return. He was really good and big and strong.
So you're basically the Ohtani of the CFL.
Yeah, he could do everything. Oh no, wait, Nick, that Ohtani performance last night was one for the ages. I've never seen anything like that. Neither of you, Chris, and you're not going to see something like that again very soon. I mean, 10 strikeouts, shutout ball in the NL Championship Series, and 3 home runs. It's unheard of. Guy's amazing.
That's one way to beat down the Brew Crew.
Yeah, there you go.
Marty, have you thought about writing another book in the future about some of the greatest athletes that you've witnessed as a journalist and a reporter in your career? So
I've been asked on a couple of occasions, a few occasions, by, I'm not going to mention names, but I have been asked to do it. And I mean, I have a job right now, and it's a full-time job. I'm a full-time father, even though my kids are grown up now. I do have a lot to do. To write a book, I think I need to be fully retired, sit down and see if my memory is still working well enough to make to write a book that will contain stories of general interest. I did another podcast not long ago with a gentleman who was asking me about some of the best stories I ever had, and I was talking about guys like Kelly Gruber and George Bell and guys like that who were Blue Jays from a long time. I know you, Chris, know those guys, but a lot of today's sports fans don't even know who those guys are. And in my day, and I sound very old now, they own the city. And same with Holloway and Barnes and those kinds of guys. Greer, I mean, they were big names in Toronto in those days. But you say these names nowadays, like Nick. I don't know how old you are, but I know.
Yeah, I know the Argo. Yeah,
I know
I don't know the Jays.
You do know all the Jays?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, exactly.
So the world has changed. So I don't know, Chris. I mean, it's a difficult challenge to write a book that will make some money and that will appeal to a broad spectrum. It's not easy to do what you're suggesting. I'll see.
I would be nice to see more books about the Argos too. I don't even think they did one on their 150th year of celebrations.
Yeah, I don't think they did either. The one that was done, there was a whole chapter about me. What was his name? I mean, I know
Paul
him really
Woods
well.
did one on the year of the Rocket.
That's one. Paul Woods, yeah.
Yeah, and then he wrote the
one
there's a whole
on the chapter.
80.
Yeah, about the 80. But it was mostly about the Grey Cup champions, Greer and Holloway and Barnes and Minter and Dan Ferroni and Hank was on that team. There are a lot of guys who they were great players, and that was a good team. And Obilovich coached it, and some of the guys liked me, and some of them didn't, and that was really made clear in Paul Wood's book, which was a very good book. I really liked it.
Nick?
Yeah. It's weird because I've been looking at a lot of CFL history books lately because of my own interests. And what I have found was although there's that interest in for more books on the CFL, I've noticed the one team that doesn't have its own sort of team history books to some extent though actually is Hamilton. There's a good amount of Argo history books on specific Argo related topics. There'll be a new one coming out soon by Dr. James Fraser at the University of Guelph as well. But really this is something I'm considering looking at. Being the historian that I am, Hamilton might be the place to look for to write something about, because really there aren't, aside from a couple chapters in some broader CFL histories, there's not really a book just about the history of the Ticats.
Oh my God! I mean, I'm surprised at that. I thought that I had read a book about the Ticats a long time ago, but I mean, you're right. I mean, there has to be a market because there's so much history in Hamilton, so much of it. I mean, all these names are just, coming to my head right now. I mean, I'm conjuring up images of Joe Zuger and Bernie Filoni and Tommy Joe Coffey. And I mean, it goes on and Garney Henley. And I mean, those were the days. And I was just a little kid. I didn't cover any of those guys. But I sure followed them, and they were a fun organization to watch, with the exception of Ralph Sazio. But I don't want to go there.
we have that whole, we have that whole argument between Argos. Darn it!
I can hear you.
Oh, good. We continue to have that argument on which is older, whose football program's older, Toronto's or Hamilton's. With Hamilton football going technically beyond 1873 if you count the Tigers beforehand. But at the end of the day, in Montreal, they're the ones that are really laughing, because while we have this argument, Montreal is actually the true birthplace of what it could be considered modern Canadian football at McGill.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And you're right. That's overlooked often.
Hey, Marty, since we're talking about the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, I saw them last week against Calgary at Hamilton Stadium as freelance media, and their organization's been really good with me, so I give them a shout out. But for a team that's supposed to be a Grey Cup contender, supposed to be the top team in the East, Calgary went in there and basically knocked them out like a boxer.
Yeah, you make another good point, Chris. You're right. I was very surprised by how flat the Ticats were against Calgary last week. I was shocked. I don't know if Bo Levi Mitchell's getting a little tired towards the end of the season. He's not a spring chicken anymore. I'm not blaming him because it wasn't entirely his fault. There were some drop passes. White dropped a few. And even Kenny Lawler dropped one or two. So, but they have a good team. They're resting this week. I suspect they're going to be ready for the playoffs. But don't discount the Alouettes. I did earlier. I thought once Davis, Alexander, or whatever his name is, Alexander Davis, once he got hurt, I thought that team was going to fall apart because Bethel Thompson to me isn't the prototype CFL quarterback. And I mean, I'm not sure that the team does as well without Davis Alexander, but he's a terrific quarterback, that guy. He's a competitor. And I'm starting to think Montreal will represent the East in the Grey Cup, although it could be one of the Western teams from the crossover, right? Which I hope it isn't. To me, the Grey Cup loses a bit when it's two Western teams.
I agree. Hey, Marty, if you got a few more minutes, Nick has to get going soon because I guess he's going to an FC game tonight. But Nick, do you have a final question to ask Marty? And hopefully we can get Marty back on again in the future again.
Yeah, I guess we can steer the direction of this coming game. How do you think the Argos are going to do against Calgary tonight?
I'm afraid, Nick, I don't think they're going to do very well. As Chris just mentioned, Calgary looked very strong last week against Hamilton. They're at home for this game. They will have a decent crowd supporting them. That's usually the norm in Western Canada. The Argos are, they're out of it. They've nothing much to play for except pride, as they like to say. I think Calgary and Vernon Adams do a number on the Argos tonight.
I tend to agree with you, Marty. And this game means a lot of the Argo players obviously are playing for jobs for next year, but Calgary wants to still have that chance to host the West semifinal. Right. So they really need this game tonight. So I expect Calgary to come out and take care of business tonight against Argo team that's just had a miserable 2025 season.
Agreed.
Yeah, when I looked at the roster, it's interesting because we had that whole conversation just now about jobs. The Argos really are lining up most of the lineup they have all year. It's the same core starting guys. Of course, I think the big question is going to be how long the leash is Daggy going to have? Is he going to play, the first quarter, first three nights, and then go out? And will we see Tucker Horn and the third string guy coming in? I think that's what's going to be kind of the interesting thing, and to see what they can do.
Okay, so if they do come in, it would be unfair to expect Horn or the other guy whose name we don't even remember
Duggan.
Oh yeah, so it would be unfair for anyone to expect them to succeed under those conditions in Calgary, where Stamps are a formidable team, and like you said, Chris, they need the win. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be gung ho in this game. I think it's going to be very lopsided.
Marty, in your opinion, what are the biggest needs in the offseason for the Toronto Argonauts going forward into the offseason via the draft and free agency?
Well, I mean, via the draft, you can never get enough linemen. You need to shore up that offensive line, as you and Nick mentioned earlier. It's not good enough. Free agency, go after a running back and settle your quarterback situation. You have to. There's no need to change your receiving core, they're outstanding. The defense is, pretty good. I mean, you could use one or two guys maybe, but they don't bother me. The kicker's terrific. The coaching staff, Dinwiddie is great. You can't blame him for what has happened this season. I really can't. But they have to settle their quarterback situation. I mean, maybe Spencer Brown from the start of the season is the answer at running back. If not, bring in a running back. Bring in one of those good running backs. I know Rankin has re-signed. Butler, Mills, I don't know what their status is, but if they're free agents, make a big offer to get them. There's other guys. Stanback is still pretty good. You need someone with CFL experience who has proven that they can do the job. Losing Ouellette was big. I know it was a while ago now, but that guy's been sensational too for Saskatchewan. They just miss a bona fide running back. As I said, maybe Brown is the answer at the beginning of next year. I don't know, but I would try to get somebody.
I wonder how different it would have been if Dan Attaboy didn't get traded to Ottawa.
Yeah, he's also, he's been. I have a feeling, Nick, that he will be their starting running back in Ottawa next year. There's going to be changes there.
Major changes.
Yeah, the coach will get fired, Dice. I don't know if Campbell takes over or they get rid of all the coaches, but they're going to have some major changes, and I can see Stanback being let loose and Attaboy end up starting, even though he's Canadian. It doesn't matter anymore. You've got Rourke, a Canadian, the best quarterback in the league. That's saying a lot. And there's some good Canadian running backs now too. So it's better than it was. Well, mind you, Harris was a fantastic running back, wasn't he? Canadian.
Yes, absolutely. And he's which team is he
coaching? He's coaching Ouellette in Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
The Saskatchewan Argonauts, I call them.
Yeah. Yeah, Corey Mason, those guys, they're all good. They're a good team.
Nick, you got to get going.
Yeah,
see you, Nick.
Yep, I'm gonna head out. Thanks, everybody. Go Argos. I agree. I think Calgary probably is going to win this week, but it's not going to kill my love of the double blue. So I hope they'll at least be able to cover the spread. 9.5 is quite a big margin. So take care, guys. Have a good night. Go Argos.
Thanks, Nick. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Marty, do you have like 5 more minutes? A couple more minutes, quick time?
5 more minutes is, yeah, sure.
Okay. Sure. Do you see any changes to the Argos coaching staff in the offseason, possibly? Obviously not with Ryan Dinwiddie, but...
Yeah, I don't think they should change their coaches at all. It just, they have another year under their belt. They've now dealt with adversity. They're smart enough to make the necessary adjustments, I think. Dinwiddie has exceeded my expectations as a head coach. He's been terrific. I mean, he's a good head coach. And if you let him go there, that would be a mistake, in my opinion. And I don't think Pinball Clemens would even think like that at this moment. So keep Dinwiddie, keep the other coaches. There's nothing wrong with Ivan and those guys. They know what they're doing. Maybe the offensive line needs a complete overhaul with, and maybe the coach in that regard gets looked at. But I would not make massive changes to that coaching staff. You'll see it in Ottawa. I don't think it should be done in Toronto.
And as for Edmonton, obviously they're going to miss the playoffs again this year, but at least this organization looks like they're heading in the right direction. 7 wins, and they're more competitive. So hopefully the Elks can continue forward next year as well. Mark Killen's been around a long time as an assistant coach, and I thought he did a terrific job with Edmonton. It's difficult there because their quarterback at the beginning of the year was someone who we all thought was going to dominate the league, and he's Canadian as well, Trey Ford.
And it turned out that he wasn't ready for prime time yet. So they resorted to Fajardo, and under him, they had some near wins that they should have had. I remember Julian Grant missing a touchdown pass on the last play that it was right in his hands, and he dropped it. They would have won that game, and they did very well just to bounce back in the second half. And I actually think they have to settle their quarterback situation as well. I mean, you're going to go with Fajardo again, or are you going to make Trey Ford the kind of guy that he's supposed to be, the dynamo? And if that happens, then I think they're very good. They've come a long way in 1 year. I actually thought they were going to make the playoffs, but they didn't.
Marty, quick CFL Grey Cup prediction. Who do you see coming out of the East and the West?
So I'm changing that a little bit, because at the beginning of the year I said it would be Hamilton versus the Lions, and now I'm saying the Lions still will end up in the Grey Cup ahead of the Rough Riders. And in the East, as long as this Davis Alexander is flourishing, and he sure seems to be again, even today. Although just as I speak, it looks like Ottawa got a touchdown. So it's 13-6 before the convert for Montreal. I think the Alouettes are going to be back in the Grey Cup. Again, you don't know because of that Western crossover. So Calgary I don't know. Any of those Western teams could be there. But I kind of like Montreal and the Lions to meet in the Grey Cup.
And what I like about this year in the CFL, Saskatchewan's been good, Hamilton's been good, but there hasn't been one team where it's like they're dominant, nobody has a chance. There's 5 or 6 teams that have a chance of winning the Grey Cup this year, in my opinion.
That's the most important thing about the CFL, the parity. You don't get that in a lot of leagues. I mean, and when you do, it's a real luxury, and it should raise fan interest, and I think it has. I mean, it's true what you say. I mean, there's not one. Rough Riders had a great season, but there isn't one team that has, that you just know will go on the field and dominate. That's not happening. Although I think Calgary will do that tonight.
Hey, Marty, as we wrap this up, just quick thoughts on the Blue Jays Mariner series. And do you feel the winner of this series has even a shot against the LA Dodgers, the way they're playing right now?
To answer your second question first, no, not a chance. I don't care if it's Seattle or the Blue Jays, as I call them. I believe the Dodgers are extremely talented and extremely strong. Their pitching is fantastic. Their bullpen is completely reliable, unlike the Blue Jays. Their batting order, I mean, they've got guys in the middle of that order, like Tommy Edman and these guys who are just clutch hitters, and they really can hit. And, Teoscar Hernandez, who wasn't good enough for the Blue Jays, is a very key component of the Dodgers' success. I expect him to have a huge series no matter who he's playing. And I suspect that'll be Seattle. They need one more win. I think after the moves that Schneider and his overrated pitching coach, Pete Walker, made last night, so silly putting in Brendan Little in that situation, a high leverage situation. That's a buzzword these days, high leverage. These guys like to say that. But that was a high leverage situation. And this guy Little has been really having trouble in the second half of the season. It just stunned me that he would put him in the 8th inning. And then Dominguez, or Blominguez, as I call them, gave up the grand slam to Suarez, and that guy's inconsistent. And so is Hoffman, their closer. I mean, so unless the offense goes to work in Toronto on their home field Sunday, which hasn't happened in the previous 2 games of this series in Toronto. Unless that happens, I can't see the Jays coming out victorious.
They're 0-4 against Seattle at home. So people are thinking automatically, oh, they're going to win the series now because they're back in Toronto. Not necessarily. And also, by the way, if the Jays did play the Dodgers, everyone's like, oh, the Jays will have home field advantage. The LA Dodgers can beat you anywhere in any stadium. They don't
That's
just have
true.
to be at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers are what the Yankees used to be like.
Absolutely. They're completely dominant. They have murderers row and all that. Those guys can hit, they can pitch, and they've got a great manager, Roberts. Really good.
He's a future Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
So. And if he wins back-to-back World Series, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Mind you, I would say Cito Gaston should be in the Hall of Fame too, and he isn't because he won
I tend to agree.
92 and 93.
I tend to agree with you. I think he should get in my opinion.
He was very underrated, and players love that guy. They really like to perform for him. I'm not sure that's the same case with Schneider. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not sure.
Anyways, Marty, finally, where can our audience follow you on social media and the best way of contacting you on social media?
The best way is I was going to say Twitter, but it's called X, right?
Yeah.
These days, because I work full-time as a communications director at BMO Field, Canada, and very happy, grateful to be doing that job. But just for fun, I still send out a lot of posts on X, and sometimes too many. And,
I'm guilty of it too. I like to express my opinions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're built for, Chris. So the best way is just on X, and I think it's at Marty York. That's it.
I have it right here as well. And Marty, I want to say on behalf of Nick and myself, thank you for coming on the Argo Bounce podcast show again. And perhaps maybe we could have you on before the Grey Cup to preview this year's Grey Cup. That's going to be November 16th in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. And Chris, anytime, it's always a pleasure just chatting with you and Nick. I really like it. And anytime, I'm here.
And Marty, one thing, you yourself and a couple other guys, the older school guys, I really look up to you guys. And I've not tried to copy your style. I've got my own style, but I've learned in media now not to be afraid to ask the questions that need to be asked.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the worst that could happen though? If you ask the question that needs to be asked, the person who you've asked the question can only say, well, that's a stupid question. And I've had that many times, but sometimes you get your best answers on the questions like that. And sometimes, to the credit of a lot of athletes and a lot of sports figures, even the questions that will annoy them, they still give you thoughtful answers sometimes. So it's always worth asking the questions. I still get upset when I think about Jim Gray asking Pete Rose, I think it was at an All-Star game. About,
Fenway 99. Fenway Park 99. Yeah.
When he had the audacity to ask Rose about whether he feels remorseful about, gambling and that sort of thing. And Rose just said, took off on him saying, you have a lot of audacity asking me that question here and now, on national TV. Well, I give credit to Gray for asking the question, because even though I liked Rose very much, I knew him and I liked him a lot. It still was a question that needed to be asked. I don't care what Pete Rose's answer was. If he's mad or not, I could care less. But Jim Gray took a lot of heat for asking a question we all wanted him to ask. That was something that was topical. The greatest singles hitter of all time was banned from baseball. Is he remorseful? Well, I don't think there was anything wrong at that time to ask that question. But I also agree with Donald Trump, who says Pete Rose should be posthumously inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The guy was the best singles hitter I ever
Yeah.
saw.
Yep, I'll leave it at that. But
Okay.
I do tend to agree with you and him, even though I'm not a fan of his. But I do definitely agree Pete Rose should get into the Hall of Fame. Period. But Marty, will definitely have you come back on again and talk a little more about the CFL Grey Cup and enjoy the rest of the Montreal Ottawa game. And then
Yeah,
I'm going to be watching the Argos Calgary tonight, and then we've got the Blue Jays in Seattle tomorrow at 8:03. So this is a great time of the year for sports, and I want to
great
say,
job.
Marty, thank you for giving us over an hour of your time today, and I will send you a video copy, audio copy of our show today with Nick Small.
Okay, and don't forget to send the money. I'm kidding. Take
What
care.
money? What money? I know. Thanks, Marty.
All
We'll
the
talk
best.
to you soon, buddy. You too. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Marty. Bye. All right, everyone. That concludes season 4, episode 15 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co-hosts Nick Small and Chris Pomay, a weekly independent show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. And again, I want to say thank you to today's special guest, a friend of mine, a friend of the show's, Marty York, a former journalist with the Globe and Mail and TSN personality, for coming on here today as well. And speaking of CFL, we've got Montreal and Ottawa right now, probably around halftime, and Ottawa is really out of it this year. They're 4-13. They're going to finish last in the CFL, and Montreal can still win the East and host the East final if they can win today against Ottawa and then have Hamilton lose next week to Ottawa. So the CFL East right now, Montreal is trailing Hamilton, and Hamilton does have the tiebreaker. But if Montreal can win today and then get some help from Ottawa next week, Montreal could very well host the East final. But as of now, it looks like it's going to be in Hamilton. So, and then the other game tonight, Toronto and Calgary at 7:00. So Montreal, Ottawa should be at halftime, TSN, and then Toronto, Calgary, 7:00 on TSN. Or if you want to listen to the Toronto Argonauts radio broadcast with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant, you can tune in on TSN at 10:50 as well. And last night's CFL games, we had Winnipeg beat Saskatchewan 17-16, and the late game on Friday night was BC beating Edmonton and eliminating the Elks 37-24. And I think right now BC would be hosting that East semifinals, or the West semifinal. It's right now between BC, Calgary, and Winnipeg. Those teams are all going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be one of them that's going to be hosting the West semifinal, and the other team will be a crossover going to the East and taking on the Montreal Alouettes as well. As we wrap up this show, the next Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by BarryCullen.com, to be announced. I'm working on more guests and more shows next week, and I want to say thank you to all my guests this week on Tim O'Shea and also Slamming Sammy for coming on my show, as well as Kevin Allen from Detroit Hockey Now as well. So the next Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show will be next week with a new guest and date and time. So make sure you check out my social media pages for that as well. And also, if you're a business and you're looking to advertise on the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co-host Chris Pomay, Nick Small, you can email me at cpomay19@gmail.com. Our podcast show is on 21 different platforms and video and audio, and we are well connected with guests from around the Canadian Football League as well. And I want to say thank you to Marty York for coming on, George Brown, Mike Hogan, and some others that have come on our show this year as well. The next Argo Bounce Podcast show, Season 4, Episode 16, will be our season final with me and Nick next week. Date and time to be announced. And me and Nick will break down the Argos Calgary game and preview the CFL's playoffs and get our Grey Cup predictions as well. But yeah, it's hard to believe the season for the Toronto Argonauts is going to be over as of tonight. This is the first time since 2019 the Toronto Argonauts have missed the playoffs. There was no playoffs in 2020, and this is the first time since Dinwiddie took over in 2021 they're going to miss the playoffs. So hopefully the Argos can get a win tonight against Calgary and finish up the season on a strong note. And looking forward to training camp in 2026 at the University of Guelph, which will be in May as well. So a lot of CFL action still to go on with the regular season concluding next weekend. Hamilton's back in action next Friday against Ottawa at Hamilton Stadium, I believe at 7:30 kickoff. Hamilton is just one win or one Montreal loss from hosting the East Final in Hamilton. I want to say thank you to my co-host Nick Small for coming on, Marty York, and thank you to everyone watching this live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, Instagram. And I want to say thank you to Derek Knight for his comments, as well as Robbie Schneider and George Brown for watching this show as well. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you back here next week for a new edition of Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, and one more episode of the Argo Bounce Podcast show for the 2025 season. So make sure you tune into Nick and my last show for the 2025 season, and hopefully we'll be back in 2026. I hope everybody has a great day, great weekend. Enjoy the CFL games going on right now with Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, and Calgary tonight, and enjoy the NFL and obviously Major League Baseball, the ALCS tomorrow, Toronto and Seattle as well. So take care, everybody. Thanks again for watching and listening to the Argo Bounce Podcast show. And as always, go Argos.
Until they reach the top, pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos! Go Toronto Argos, go, go, go! Pull together, fight the foe, foe, foe! Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you